Welcome back to the Deep Life. Today, we're going to cover some powerful topics and tap into the life-changing wisdom of a guest who I can't wait to talk to. He is an acclaimed spiritual teacher and mind power mentor who teaches people how to understand the hidden possibilities they possess to do more, be more, and have more in every area of life. Brent Webb, welcome to the Deep Life.
Hey guys, it is my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so excited, Brent. Yes, can't wait to dive deep with you today.
Yeah.
Me too. Let's do it.
We're looking forward to getting deep into mindset. But first, could you just share a little bit of your background and how you got to the position you're in today?
Yeah, well, I was an only child. I grew up in Ohio. Okay. So, and when I was a little kid, I was a little chubby kid. I wanted to be a magician. And like so many kids who were like, looking for something to make them kind of, stand out. So for years when I was, 5, 6, 7, 8, everything was magic tricks and things like that. So I would go to the library and I would take out magic books every week. So one Saturday, I was about 11. I went to the library and I grabbed the books that were on the shelf. And inside the stack of books, there was a book that was mistakenly put on the shelf. It was called The Magic of Believing. And it was all about mind power and mindset and belief. And even at 11, I started reading that book, and it was like the aha moment that there is more than I realized to life, to, the power that we have. So at that age, 11, I mean, I started really getting into that the whole thing. I mean, watching speakers and, going to seminars as a teenager. When I was in college, I hated it. I dropped out my first semester. And I went on the road as a mentalist. And it's because it's always been about the mind for me. So my whole career, the first 10 years was all over the world, opening for celebrities, but learning. I took this chance to get paid and travel the world and be able to meet all these people I'd never be able to meet, and talk about spiritual leaders and, religious leaders, and talk about mindset. So then the last 10 years of my career has been all about teaching it to everyone, and kind of, because I used to do millionaires, billionaires, celebrities. They'd bring me in for, the Cleveland Browns. But those people, they don't they don't need this information. They all have nannies and accountants and assistants, and they understand. If somebody like Kobe Bryant, for instance, they understand mind power. They know how to direct it. They understand it. It's the masses. It's us. It's the people that are going out every day and trying to exist, that need to know what they can do to make their life better. So that's kind of been my focus on the last 10 years or so. So that's what I'm doing. Every radio interview, podcast, TV show, it's just about, hey, if you're watching this, you have got incredible power. You've got the most amazing supercomputer ever developed. You just don't know how to use it. You don't even know how to turn it on most of the time. So that's kind of what I'm teaching people, how, you've got immense power, and let's fire that up and change your life.
Oh, I love it. I can't wait. I have so many questions already. Well, we're going to dive right into mindset, because I think to date, one of our top 3 episodes ever, and we've been doing the show almost 3 years, it was titled Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. And it's so beautiful. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about these hidden abilities that you mentioned that everybody has, right? I'm special. You're special. Dan's special. My family, everybody is special. Yet, celebrities, people who are elite athletes, they tend to be the less than 1% of these people who seem to dominate. And we look up to them as idols. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I truly believe, like, you're seeing that reflection of their divinity, those hidden aspects, that potential within them, which means it's right there within you as well. But how do we access it? So if you don't mind breaking that down and breaking exactly down what these hidden abilities are within us.
Well, I think the best place to start is for people to understand, if you're watching this today, 99.8% of the population is completely programmed. And that's where we have to start, because you have to understand, if you're an adult watching this, you've been programmed your entire life, and not always in a malicious way. But when you're a child and you're born, you're a blank slate. And think about it, think back to your childhood and remember when you were happy, you laughed, when you were sad, you cried, you weren't outside, you pretended to be all these things you imagined, and you played, and it was amazing. Then your parents start working on you, and boys do this, girls do this. This is our religion. That you're taking on their generational programming. And then you go to school. It's like, get in a line of desks, all be the same, don't talk. learn this, don't learn that. And then it just builds from there. You got the media, you've got, and again, not in a malicious Dr. Evil kind of way, but it's, they don't know any better because they didn't learn any better from the people that taught them. So we're in this scenario now where you're an adult and the first 10 years of your life, I always tell people, imagine you're, as a little kid, there's and nobody knows really a tape recorder anymore. When I say tape recorder for the young kids, I have to say, imagine like a digital recorder on your phone. Cause it's like, what is a tape recorder? But you have a tape recorder inside your mind and it's just recording everything. So the first 10 years, it's literally everything you see, you do, you like, you hate, all of that. And then about 10 years of age, it just stops. The tape stops, tape's full. Now, for the rest of your life, that is the tape that's running in your head. When you're on autopilot, guess what? Mommy didn't think you were good enough. If you don't think you could ever have money, that's what's running in the background of your mind. And that's what's destroying our happiness because it's keeping us from, we never see true reality, right? So the power is knowing that you've got this amazing computer. It's the most sophisticated thing ever developed. And it literally is. I mean, it is so immensely powerful. We use about 2%, 3% of it, right? So you have to understand, you have this thing. When you get a cell phone, you buy a toaster, you buy a microwave, you buy anything, they give you a manual, an exact how-to manual to use this device. You're born with this amazing supercomputer, figure it out. It's you, right? You go to school. My teacher used to say, Brent, you need to focus. And finally I said, did I learn that? Because I don't remember focus day. And she admitted no, I guess we didn't teach that. I don't really know either. And it's true. You know, you have these buzzwords that you use. Nobody understands how it works. So you have to, that's where you got to be first. You have to understand there's programming up there. There's a voice talking in your head that's not you. We can talk about that in a minute. But you have to the first thing I always tell people is bring awareness. Okay, that's your magic power immediately. Because most people go through their life, it's like they're born and they die and they're in a tunnel. And they go in one side and fall out the other, and they never realize there's more. It's career, family, this, that, and it's over. Right? So they never expand their consciousness at all to know that there's more. So I tell people, first thing is just awareness. Try to figure out what's going on in your head, because that voice is talking all the time. Most of the time, we're not paying any attention. It's happening in the background. So awareness is key. You know, get some Post-it notes. This is a good mind hack. Get some Post-it notes, draw some happy faces or pictures, put them around your house, the car, the office, wherever you go. And for a week, you get a pad and you keep it with you, a little, spiral pad and a pen. Every time you see that Post-it note, that's your trigger. Immediately, what's on my mind? And then you write it down, because that's the only way you're going to catch it. You write it down as soon as you see that. Okay. After a week, go back and read that steno pad. You are going to see the most screwed up bunch of crap you've ever thought of in your life, because it makes no sense. It was created when you were under 10. You weren't mature. It's not logical, and it has no bearing on your life now. But we are literally constrained by that. So awareness is the first thing. You have to find out what the voice is saying, what's going on up there. And then what happens is it starts to create space. It starts to let you escape from it. Otherwise, you're living your whole life inside your mind. And that's what most people do. You never get out of there. It's like everything, we think the world has to do with us. Like, this world's been here for billions and billions of years. Everything had to happen perfectly to get here. And it's like the moment's here, but we don't want it. I want this. I don't want that. I like this. I don't like that. We think it's about us. And so it becomes like us versus the universe, because you pit yourself against everything that's ever happened. You try to twist it to be the way you want it, like people, things. I got to be this way, shouldn't be that way. Otherwise, I'm not going to be happy. So awareness is huge. It's like the very first thing. It's almost like 70%, because if you start to become aware, I mean, it's not going to hold you very long anymore, because it's like anything you drag into the light, it starts to go away whenever you kind of expose it. So awareness is huge. It's the first big thing you need to do.
Yeah, I was thinking that as you were saying, like, given that, which I think is great advice, to put the Post-it notes around and start paying attention to what it is that's actually going on in your mind. Because you mentioned the term autopilot before, and I think most of us have no idea that we're spending 99, 98% of our life on autopilot, just thinking the same thoughts over and over, playing out the same patterns and being the same person we were the day before without even thinking about what that actually is.
Yeah. I mean, they say every day we spend 40% of most people. So we take the average person. They spend 40% of that day in the past, which means in your mind, you're thinking about what you could have done. If I had done this, he wouldn't have done that. And all this stuff. which is done and over and you can't change. So it's wasted, right? And then you spend 40% of your time fearing what's going to happen in the future. I don't want this to happen. I want this to happen. I need this. I don't need that. So in any given day, you're only spending 20% of your time in the moment, which is the only time you can do anything. It's like when the past was happening, it was the present moment. When the future gets here, it will be the present moment. These two things are abstract ideas, but we live there like they're real. And because there's no power in the past or the future as far as change, you can't do anything. This is the moment. Any change you want to make, anything you want to do has to happen now. So nobody wants it. It's like this moment is never the moment. It's for most people, it's like I'm making a cup of coffee. I don't want this moment. I want the moment when I'm drinking the coffee. It's Wednesday and I'm working till Friday and I go on vacation or whatever. I don't want Thursday and Wednesday and Thursday. I want to be at Friday. So you're always putting happiness ahead. And that's what everybody does. It's like happiness is, it's going to be the person, it's going to be in a car, it's going to be in something. When I get this, I'll be happy. And then you're happy for what? An hour, 2 hours a day. And then the next thing shows up that you have to be happy. So it puts happiness ahead of you. It's like a hamster wheel where you're chasing it, but it's never where you are. And nobody ever thinks about it. But, happiness is an inner thing. Like if I told you, go out and buy me a pound of happiness, buy me some courage, buy me, 2 packs of love. It's not possible, but we look for all of those things out there. We think something out there is going to give me courage. Something out there is going to make me happy. Something out there is going to make me feel love. And those are all inner things. We're doing it completely backwards. It's like there's 2 worlds, the inner and the outer. We think the outer is the primary and the most important, and it's not. Because until you fix yourself, you can't fix anyone else. It's like you fix yourself, then people are inspired to change. Then we start to change more people, and then the world starts to change. It's not, I'm going to go out and force people to, that's how wars happen and all of that. This is, I'm going to change myself. My life's going to become an incredible thing. People are going to change by osmosis because they want that. That's the most powerful thing, not force or telling you what it needs to be. It's like, get a little bit for yourself, and just the success of what will happen to your life will be motivation enough. But seeing somebody else do it close to you is also huge. I mean, if it's your mother or your father who isn't, you want to change yourself and make this huge transformation. They will see that no matter how, horrible they are or whatever, they will see that. That's how we do it. And it's all a mindset game. It really is. I mean, mindset, everything I've ever come across in my life, I was hooked on pain pills years ago, alcohol, cancer, all of those things, money, they're all mindset things. Because if you look at them the wrong way and your perception is wrong, you're in big trouble. It's a mindset thing. The way you're looking at it first is your biggest asset. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. It doesn't matter what anybody else feels. It doesn't matter what, knowledge or what you're reading about. Like say you're sick and you're reading all these horrible things. It's not that. The most important thing is the way you're looking at it, the way you're processing it, the way you're living it. That's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's more of your relationship to the outer circumstance that's dictated. So actually, let's dive into that a little bit, because I think that we can't reiterate this like enough. And the more people we have on, you're using it in your unique terminology. So yes, well, I kind of want to start with 2 things. You're blowing, again, you're speaking our language, blowing our minds at the same time. I want to talk about the relationship, your relationship to, it can be people, your finances, if you're addicted to something, what that truly means and how that can be reframed once you have this powerful awareness of, oh, wait a minute, I could possibly be creating through the internal mechanisms of this program who I am, the out picturing of life bringing me the circumstances to provide me possibly opportunities to learn and grow through. I mean, who honestly wants to be sick or be in debt or not truly have a loving relationship? But like you mentioned, those are typically run by the old programs, our subconscious beliefs about ourselves that haven't either been dissolved, integrated, or reconciled yet. So keep going with that. I know that I threw that at you, but it's really when you're able to understand that, all right, it's taking accountability. It can be kind of jarring for people. And so if you have a gentler way to put this, please, because we don't, I try not to blame it. No, of course. Have I lived the most amazing life? No, but I truly am grateful for what I've gone through. It's gotten me to this point, and I know it's going to get me further. There is no blame. Anyone who's experienced severe trauma or anything, I'm really not trying to blame anybody. There is a deep compassion. It's hard to be a human. It really is. But I believe that that's the beauty of it in this third dimensional reality. Like, we're in a shitstorm here. But like you said, we have to be given a manual on how to really navigate this terrain.
For sure. I mean, most people, they just don't understand. They don't, either they think it's some woo-hoo thing, or they think it's a religious thing that, you know, people are turned off by it. And it's not. It's a way that people lived, you know, thousands of years ago, when there wasn't all of this stuff pulling our attention away. You know, we have in 1989, we had an attention span of 7 minutes, okay, which is still very low. Today, it's 7 seconds. That's why everything is scrolling and turning. You know, you see people and it's like, okay, I have like 2 minutes free, pick up my phone and I'm on my phone immediately. It's like you're addicted. The dopamine hit of all of that, the flashing lights, the moving of the stuff. We have no attention span. So it's getting harder and harder to do what has to be done to make that connection. I mean, you have to do something where you're alone with yourself, because the inner you, the soul you, the you know, that is what you're trying to connect to. It's like, I tell people, it's like the TV show Hoarders. Remember that show where they would throw all the crap in their house? It's exactly what we do, because here's what happens. It's like any moment that you like a really great moment, your first kiss or the first car or whatever it is. We don't want to lose that feeling. So what we do is we hold it inside, and that takes willpower. It takes life force energy, and you only have so much of that. So every little thing you do that with, and we do it with almost everything. It's like, I like this, I don't like that. The things I really don't like, you would think logically you would get rid of, right? You would throw away. We don't. It's like, I don't want it, so I'm going to toss it in there in my house, and I'm going to leave it there. And what happens then is, say you broke up with your girlfriend. She drove a red Ford Bronco or something. Now, every time you're driving and you see a red Ford Bronco, all of the emotions rush back, the thoughts come back, everything comes flooding back. And then what do? Push it back down again. It's trying to release. It's trying to get out of there. Everything is energy, and energy is made to be transient. It's made to go through. It's like, I don't like this, so I'm going to stop it from coming through me, and I'm going to hold it inside me. And that's what we do. And the good ones are just as bad. To do that with, I saw this sunset and it just knocked my socks off, right? It was every color of the rainbow was amazing. And now you want to go buy a house on that corner so you can live there. Well, I mean, come on, people do that sort of thing. It's like, you don't realize these moments where you feel all this energy, that energy is there all the time. It's just covered with all this crap you've been hoarding. All these experiences, all your willpower is like divided. So every day when you wake up, you may have, 15% of your life force, because the rest of it is holding in the time you peed your pants in first grade, the time your grandma did that. I mean, it's all this stuff. So I tell people, first thing is, the past is like a sum zero thing, a proposition. In other words, there is nothing you can gain from that. You can't change it. You can't do anything about it. It's completely a 0%. There's no gain. So the past is the easiest thing to let go. I've had clients say, tell me about their mother in say a session or something. And then you find out at the end, she's been dead since 1984. Okay. She's not dead to you. She's alive inside your mind. She's torturing you the way she did then. That's on you. No matter what she did to you then. And then people have gone through just the most horrendous, horrible things, but you're allowing yourself to continue to go through those things because you're living it. You're still living there in the feeling and in the moment. And I loved what you said earlier, because people are repeating the same thing. 90% of our thoughts are repetitive, which means you're living in the past every morning because you're already thinking about all the crap from yesterday and all the things that you got to do, So you just have to start to make the separation that there's a lot of, crap. It's like I always, I did a podcast the other day, and the lady had a great, which I never thought of, but it's like you're driving a car. You've been driving a car your whole life, but you've never washed it. So now every time you go through a storm, anything, the windshield is getting a coating of dirt or whatever. You're sitting in the driver's seat looking at life through that dirty windshield. And that's what we do. It's like nobody sees true reality. Nobody, because if you and I were standing in a room, I don't have the same experiences as you. You don't have the same experiences as me. We weren't raised nothing. No two people in the history of forever are ever going to have that. So when you're looking at reality, I'm looking at it through my lens of all the things that happened to me. For instance, if we're walking down the street together and a guy's walking towards us that looks like the uncle that slapped me around when I was a kid, I could be freaking out inside. You're fine. And we're seeing the same person. It's because of our past. So every person looks at reality through a lens of what's happened to them, because it's like, to use the computer analogy, it's like you buy a new computer that just has an operating system. That's the mind. Okay. And then what we do to it is we start putting in all this crap and things that we like and we don't like. And then as we start to grow up and get older, every decision we make, I mean, think about it and tell me that this isn't true, because you know it is. Every decision you have to make is only from the knowledge that you have. It's from whatever happened to you. You can't look at reality and see anything beyond what has already happened to you and what you want. And so you're always seeing a version of reality that's not real. That's what we're all doing. It's like we're all in a billion different movies. We're all starring, directing in our own movie. None of them are the same, but yet we want to try to make other relationships with, people that we love work by twisting them around. It's like, the easiest thing to do is just to kind of relax. It's not to control, to not want to be, controlling all of these things, but to relax. And so a great way to start is low-hanging fruit. So for instance, you're going on a picnic this weekend and now it's supposed to rain. So now you're freaking out. God hates me. The universe is against me. Why does this always happen to me? Let it go. Because I mean, weather's been here for billions of years. And if you want to learn about weather, go learn about meteorology. Don't think that because you were good last week that it should be sunny on your day off or whatever. But people do it. You're driving and somebody's doing something you don't like. You're freaking out. The guy's driving along oblivious and you're behind him yelling, screaming, and, bitching this guy out. He has no idea, right? You're doing that to yourself. So those are easy things. And it's not for nothing, because what happens is every time you release something like that, you relax and you kind of make a joke about it, it gives a little bit of the willpower back because it comes home. That's what a successful person, every celebrity athlete I've worked with, anybody like that, they understand one thing. And it's the fact that when I get back a little bit of willpower, I focus it on the things that matter. Take from the things I'm getting rid of, focus it. That's how you do it. That's how you become successful. It's an easy process. It's not hard to not be mad at the guy in front of you if you think about it. But we're on autopilot all the time. When you're driving, you're not going, I have to turn left in a mile, then I have to turn right. You're not doing that. Somehow you're getting there because the program's running, right? And in your head, you're thinking about dinner. You're thinking about the fight you're going to have with oh man, I'm going to tell my girlfriend off when I get home tonight. Not only that, but you're thinking about what you're going to say. You're even doing her part. You're arguing, you're doing her, this, it's never going to happen like that. Right. So when those things pop up in your mind, it's so ridiculous. I tell people, name the voice. If you name the voice in your head, the voice in your head is not you. So this is important. People think the voice in their head is either the voice of God, it's the future, it's you doing it. It's not. It's just the conditioned past. It's a mechanism. And so when you're looking at reality, the brain is going, okay, what is similar to something that happened in the past? And it's almost always negative. Don't try this. Remember when you tried something similar and you fell on your butt? That sort of thing is going on all the time. So I tell people, name the voice. Years ago, I named mine Carl. Just you pick a funny voice. And what it does, again, all I'm trying to do with all of these things is start to create space between something dramatic happens and you're sucked into some moment, right? And there's space all of a sudden where something happens and it's before you get sucked in, now there seems to be space. You're in kind of slow motion, right? You're in the zone. And then you decide, do I want to get pulled into this? Is it worth my peace? You can actually make a decision instead of somebody says something that ticks you off and immediately you're pulled into it, because it's like when somebody says, you don't go there with me. You know what that means? It means I have stuff inside that I can't get rid of. And if you get close to it, I'm going to blow up. You can't talk about that with your father. You know that you can't. Again, those are red flags. Those are gifts. Those are things that people need to be working on, but they just don't understand. You're holding all this in. And until you start releasing it, you can never feel the energy, the power, all the things that you have. They're your birthright, the God-given right. You just have and not by any fault of your own. You've just cluttered it over because that's the way we've all been taught to do it. Just toss it in. Boys don't cry. Girls don't do this. It's always that, you know? So again, awareness, name the voice in your head. And what that does is by naming it, it takes the power away. Because when Carl starts talking now, and it happens very rarely. I don't usually tell people this at the beginning, but the voice goes away eventually. When you do this, that's not what we're going for, but it's just a byproduct of this, because the voice is there to protect you. And when you are fine with yourself, the voice doesn't need to do that crap where it's narrating your life. You're walking down the street. Hey, look at that dog. That's like a dog I used to have. I wonder what time that store. You're doing all this crap to feel comfortable. It's like the world's a big, empty, scary place. And so your mind is trying to, oh, look, there's a dog like my old dog. And you're doing all this stuff to stay out of reality. And so soon as you realize that, like I said, you start to separate. And that's the main goal here, is to get some space between you and the voice that's talking nonstop in your head.
That makes so much sense. I feel like so many of us tend to identify with that sort of stream of thoughts, and we just assume that it's us and that we can't get that space. So
well, not only do we do that, but we listen to what it says. That's the worst thing. If you were just hearing it, it'd be one thing, because you could then decide, am I gonna, right? But this, I call it the bitchy roommate. You are trapped inside a house with somebody. If this was a real person, if you lived in a house with somebody who nonstop was like, oh, you look horrible in those jeans today. What are you, if you lived with that person, they would be gone in a day. You would get rid of them so fast. But you don't with the voice. The voice literally can tell you one thing. Like, for instance, your girlfriend's supposed to come over and she's late. Now your voice starts. Oh my God, she's cheating on me. What's happening? I knew I should have never went out with her. She's going to break my heart. You're spending 10 minutes in complete turmoil. She shows up. Oh, it's our anniversary. I stopped to pick up dinner or whatever. Now now your voice was, oh, she is amazing. What did I do to deserve her? Right? It's taking both ends of the argument. And you're completely, you don't care, right? You don't think that's weird that this voice will tell you the complete opposite. So, and as soon as it's proven wrong, it'll take the other side. I mean, and I tell people how much. Somebody asked me once in an interview, how bad how bad of an enemy can your mind become? Not one person has ever committed suicide without the voice in their head telling them to. Think about it. I'm not good. Oh, why are we even going through this? I'm not worth it. I'm not, whatever it is, it's gotten to such a point that the bitchy roommate, the voice in your head, is literally telling you to kill yourself. It could end you. That's how horrible of an enemy your mind can be. We all let it, it's like we have a cage up there and there's a gorilla in there and it just goes crazy. It throws crap everywhere. It's nuts. We think that we're kind of, we have to bow down to that thing. And it's in control, and it's not. It's just this illusion that we've created, and we let it go. As soon as you start exerting any kind of control, you start doing anything that's forcing that thing to kind of be quiet or to shut down a little bit, it's going to fight you. It's going to say, when I first started meditating years ago, it's like, oh, my arm hurts, my back's sore. What am I having for lunch? That's what happens. But that's what you have to do at the beginning. Your mind, it's a gift, because sitting in meditation at the beginning, when you close your eyes and you're concentrating on your breath, you're doing something, things pop up, right? Those are gifts, because whatever's popping up in meditation is what's popping up in your everyday life in the background that you don't even realize. So meditation can be a gift at the beginning, because whatever's coming up there is something you need to be looking at, not shoving it back down. So it's not about quieting the voice. That's going to happen automatically by doing this. So you don't get in meditation and go, every time there's a thought, be upset with yourself. I always say it's a gift. If anything pops up for me, especially at the beginning, now I understand, wow, that is something that I need to be working. That energy wants to leave and it's been trying to get out. And I tell people too, and people are so amazed by this, but your mind is so spectacular and so intelligent that if you can't work through something and it's really trying to get through, like I had somebody once, their parents died when they were young in a car accident. So, they couldn't talk about it. They couldn't think about it. They couldn't see a car that looked like that. It controls your whole life, because that becomes, okay, nobody can talk about their parents. I can't watch a movie where somebody dies in a car. None of that. It literally starts to control you. Then they started having dreams. They were dreaming, and they started to mention these dreams they were having. They would wake up crying, and it was dreams of two eagles flying and being free and all of these things. Your mind is so spectacular, it will literally create pictures that are, it's the parents in the car accident, but it's hiding them so it can release them. So it's like, you may let that by. You don't know what that is. Two eagles flying around, where soon as the mom and the dad and the car and all that come up, it's no go, right? So your mind is so spectacular, it will literally create images and pictures that are symbols of that to try to release it. I mean, that's how much that energy wants to get out of you, you know? And it's like you hold everything inside. It's just so crazy when you think about it. When you look at it logically, it just makes no sense.
I'm curious what your opinion is of, because gosh, you're speaking your language is so it can be very challenging, especially during anybody who's starting off with a meditation or any type of mindfulness practice, whether you don't feel maybe ready to sit down for, 20, 30 minutes to meditate, but even beginning to consciously become aware of these thoughts. Whose are they? Are they mine? Are they not? It can be really overwhelming, but to what degree do those thoughts then elicit some sort of emotional reaction that brings you back into an emotional state that you're familiar with, typically from like a childhood or adolescence or wherever it was? Do you know what I mean by that? Like, it's like Joe Dispenza always uses the term like the thought feeling loop, like the thoughts that are very, victim mentality, woe is me, or like very, something tragic happens. You're immediately met with a feeling. And that's like the same emotional state that your body gets programmed with as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear any more of your opinion, or probably your expertise in wording and vernacular towards this, and maybe perhaps how to become more aware of not only the thoughts, but perhaps what you're feeling that may come instantaneous after any thought. It doesn't need to be bad. It could be good. Like, there are wonderful memories that I have that I can bring myself back into a state of feeling unconditional love or gratitude for, a friendship or a coach that I had at some point. Because I do believe our analytical mind, we need it. We're in the third dimensional world, but we also are emotional, sentient beings. Like, these need to be felt. Same thing as you said, emotions, they're energy in motion. If you push them down, you're not feeling it. It's that feeling that is accompanying the release or letting go of the process.
Yeah. And the thing is, we have 60,000 thoughts a day, approximately, different people. It's somewhere in that area, between 50 and 70,000 thoughts a day. And so when you tell people, okay, it's time to start working on your mindset, it's time to start becoming mindful, it's time to start doing these little things, people think, oh, this is daunting, because if I have 60,000 thoughts a day, how can I possibly, be in control of my thoughts? How can I figure out what's on my mind? But it's not the thoughts it's not the majority of those thoughts we need to worry about, because those are just thoughts, and those are transient. Those are doing what they're supposed to do. You're driving down the road and you're passing cars and trees and buildings and houses. That's not sticking in you. It's going right through. Right? That's what everything's supposed to do. So it's the thoughts, though, that are attached to feelings. That's what we store. We don't just store a feeling or a thought. We do this amazing thing as a human where we take the thought and the feeling, we connect them, and then we put them away. So when they come up, that's why your body doesn't know, your mind doesn't know if if something's actually happening to you, or if you are just imagining it. That's why sports psychologists, they go and they train teams, play the game in your mind, run the race in your mind, do these things, because your body doesn't know. The endorphins fire, all the same things that happen when you're physically doing it happen when you're just imagining that you're doing it. So it works the same way. Like, many times a feeling would come up, and I noticed in the first second of it, there's no thought really, but my mind is racing to try to match something to that feeling. So it's like, oh, I'm feeling a little, and then my mind's going, okay, this could be all the bad stuff, right? Or the good stuff or whatever. So again, you only have a limited amount of backstory that you can pull your information from. So you're always dealing with that, right? So thinking and feeling together, those are the ones that you are watching out for. And again, they're red flags, because what we do is it comes up and we push it down. Just like you said, you push it back where it's coming up because it wants to leave. It's tired of being here and it wants to go. And we just can't. I can't deal with it. I can't I can't let it. So, I mean, awareness, we talked about the naming the voice. The belief is big. The Magic of Believing, the book that started it for me, is really all about belief and believing in yourself, because that power, you know, when somebody walks in a room and they're confident in themselves, it doesn't matter what they look like exactly, it's the confidence. And I'm not talking somebody who's delusional and you meet somebody and you go, wow, this guy's got a lot of confidence for no reason. But it's the guy who walks, or the woman who walks in a room and you feel instantly magnetized to them because they're okay in them, within themselves. And that's what we're all going, no matter what you say you want. And I always tell people this, like, what do you want? Okay. Oh, I want $1 million. I want $1 billion. I want the love of my life. I want this and that. That's not what you want. Those are all things that you think are going to give you something that'll make you feel the way you want, right? Why not just feel that way first and forget about the object? That's what nobody, it's like, I want $1 billion. Okay, I'm going to give you $1 billion. I'm going to put you on a desert island. I'm going to drop $1 billion by helicopter. You're there for the rest of your life. There's nothing to buy, but do you still want it? You're going to say no. Okay, I want an amazing wedding. I want to meet this woman. I want to do this. I want to do that. Okay, you're going to have the most amazing wedding of your, it's going to be unbelievable. She's never going to love you. It's going to be miserable. Do you still want her? No. Do you still want that wedding? No. Because we think the big house is going to make me happy. I thought that. You know, when I was a little kid, the TV show, do you remember Dallas? The TV show Dallas? Okay. I grew up with that show from like 4 until I was in high school. So I thought, oh my God, this is great. You can be evil, you can cheat people, you can get, you know, you can go out and be with all these people. Like literally, as a kid, that's what programming does. You know, not purposely, but I thought, okay, when I get the big mansion, I'm gonna be so happy. When I get the right. And when I got successful at the beginning and I got those things, that's really when I started pain pills and alcohol, because it's like I finally made it. And this is nothing, like not giving me what I thought it would. And that's what it is for most people. It's like, you always think it's something out there, somewhere out there. It's like, start taking responsibility for your own happiness. Because when you put it in somebody else or anything else, it's dependent then on something, right? It's dependent on them acting the way you want, because you may find your soulmate. But then as soon as the person starts to, you know, bite their fingernails or something that you don't like, it's going to start bothering you, because we have the way we think things should be and not be. So, you know, I don't know, like I said, awareness, the naming the voice in your head, separating yourself a little bit from the idea that this is you, that this is you talking. I always tell people, we're not, and I don't know who said this originally, I think maybe Michael Singer, but it's like, we're not humans with a soul. It's like we're souls that are in these human bodies. We're down here for whatever reason, to learn, to, you know, we're on this plane for something. Okay. But we're not here to be miserable and to fight and to be, you know, to live a life of struggle and strife and be horrible to other people. That's not the idea, right? But every person thinks it's me against everyone else. Like if I don't get mine first, there's not going to be enough. So I got to get mine from him. And you know, I'm in competition. And I always tell people, competition is ridiculous too, because it's like, there's never been two people that are equal. So competition is ridiculous, because nobody has the same skill set, the same past, the same anything. So it's like, forget about everybody else, stop looking in their lane and start, you know, focusing on yourself, what you can do to make your life better and other people's life around you better. And the world will change. Things will happen. Synchronicities will happen. And, you know, they'll hit you in the face. And if you don't pay attention, they'll hit you harder next time. But life knows what it's doing. It's been going on for what, 16 billion years. Life is perfect. We may not like what's happening, but the fact that there's things happening politically or whatever, that's because generations of us did this to get us here, right? But we can't do it. You can't fight it until you accept it. By saying, I don't want this moment, I don't like it, it scares me, I can't have it, you're working against life. It's like life is trying to give you experiences and trying to show you something, and you're saying, nope, it's got to be exactly like this. It's a very select group of things that I want, and it's a very select group of things I don't want. And if either one of those things are wrong, I'm not happy. So it's like, you know, how can you possibly expect to live a life that's anything, you know, any kind of happiness and fulfillment when it's dependent on a laundry list of things that have to be exactly the way that you want them to be, right? Instead of accepting them. And I'm not saying like something's horrible, there's horrible repression somewhere and you accept it. No, you accept the moment. that you're here, then you can go be an activist, but do it from a place of help and change, and not I'm right, they're wrong. That's what we do though. An activist is normally they'll go blow up somebody's building, they'll go and car bomb somebody, and that's completely the wrong way, right? You can be an activist, but not from the standpoint of I'm right, you're wrong, I want to change things for that reason. It's like these things will come naturally. You'll find most people don't even know what they're supposed to do, who they're supposed to be, because it's all covered up. They don't know. They've put so much stuff in there. The inner you, the you that is just waiting to get out and like live a life where they can do the things that they were born to do. Most people never understand what it is. They never even look for it, because sitting alone in a room is the most terrifying. It's more terrifying to people than public speaking, than doing anything, because if the voice in your head knows everything about you. Not only does it know everything about you, it knows everything about you you've ever done that you would be so embarrassed if anybody ever knew, and that voice will use it against you. As soon as you sit quietly and and those voices start, it's going to go to the darkest, the most negative stuff. That's what it does. It doesn't want to do this. It doesn't want to change. I think of it like a person. It's like an enemy. It's like you're on a battlefield, and this person is trying to, screw up your life. So are you going to let him? Are you going to let this happen? Or since you're the soul, you are the consciousness, you are the overseer. I tell people a lot. Imagine you're watching a movie of your life, and it's it can be sad, it can be funny, it can be dramatic, it can be, but it's still a movie. And it's not affecting you as the person watching. It's not affecting you. Okay. It may be affecting the body. I have a client who I was on television in Cleveland a couple of years ago. I was doing an event. She saw me on TV. She came to the event after the show. She came up and she said, I had to meet you. I saw you on television. She's single mother, 4 kids, diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in many places in her body. And it was all about the fear. She didn't know what to do. She was just her mind was so overrunning her about, everything. You're dying, your kids are going to be alone, all of that, and I explained it's like you're driving a car. The car may not be in great shape. The car may have some problems. The car may not, make it to the end of the road, but the driver at some point, which is really you're going to get out of that car and you're going to get into another one. This isn't yours, everything. And, I worked with her, and just that little bit of, again, separation. I'm not this hurting body. By the way, this was 4 or 5 years ago. I just talked to her a couple of weeks ago. I mean, she's not miraculously healed, but she's also coming from a place where she's not afraid of dying. She's not convinced everything the doctor says is gospel. She's able to make a decision and come from that point. And I think a lot of our life is that. You go to the doctor and they say, oh, you have this and you only have this and you'll see most of those people, they die right around when they're told to die. When they're told to die, right? It's just because you believe it. It's like when you get a placebo, you're taking a sugar pill. How is it that you see these tests where, a third of the group was given the actual medicine, a third of the group was giving nothing, and a third of the group was giving a sugar pill, and a majority of the sugar pill group also get the healing? It's because they think they're getting the medicine. They think it's real. They believe it. So belief is a huge thing. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody is ever going to believe in you. Nobody's going to believe in your ideas. And we're always, as a race, we're reactive. In other words, we're waiting for something to happen, and then we're going to react to it instead of being proactive. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do what I'm going to have a goal. I'm going to try to reach that goal. Most people have very, very, very like, I want to be rich. That's not a goal. I want to be in a great relationship. That's not a goal. Those are just daydreams. Those are very, obscure kind of daydreams. You have to have a concrete, I'm going to do this, I'm going to have this relationship. I'm going to have some children, whatever, without trying to figure out how it's going to happen. It's like you put in your order, you create this, you feel it, and then you kind of let it go. You go back to it, you see the image in your mind. But it's like, if I ordered something from Amazon, I don't get on the phone every day and go, where's my package? It's going to show up eventually, right? But that's what we do. It's and then we kill it because it's like you are so mentally into, it's not coming fast enough. This has to happen for that to happen. And so you miss it because it doesn't come to you, because you're literally blocking yourself. You're blocking your abundance, you're blocking your health, you're blocking those things. You're living inside your mind. So I mean, it's just so big and people just don't get it.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I have so much to unpack there. What you are describing with kind of separating ourselves from this kind of big, scary roommate, like you're like, love your analogies. They're on point. I might take some. I hope you don't mind. Just
No, no.
I'll give you credit, Brent. But we kind of use that term within the show a lot. Like that's our ego. It's our personality structure. Again, as Stan and I believe that like it's our way of looking at the world through a separate lens, right? Like you mentioned, we're all souls, which are all connected as one. At least that's our perspective of it. But then the ego needs to separate itself and see everybody else separate to just understand and make sense of this world that we're living in. But I think very much, do you know who Peter Crone is? The mind architect?
I've heard that name. I've heard that name. I don't know.
He's brilliant. I think you'd really like him. Actually, talks all about the mind, but he says that the ego's sole imperative job in this life is to make sure it's right about the identity that it's created for you. So literally exactly what you're saying, you're just, like I said, saying it in your terms, which I love because we're all on this journey together, all trying to figure out who we truly are. But the ego thinks it's one way, this separate being, conditions, programs, be this good girl, be that bad boy, this person. And then it loses its shit when we're thought of like being like, oh, wait, I can be a different person. Or wait a minute, I'm listening to what you're talking about and I don't like this anymore.
Yep.
And like you said, it has a heyday. So I'd love to kind of like, how do you tell people like, this is okay? I feel like it's like an identity crisis. Like, and part of a huge, I would say, I don't want to use the word journey because that implies time. Discovery of who we truly are. Like I'm 37. I'm just figuring out really who I am. And who I am individually is, a partner to my family and friends because I've been one way my whole life. Again, that identity structure. And when you start to change that, not only does your ego go, what WTF is going on, but the people around you start being like, wait a minute, this isn't the person that I've known for 20, 30 years. So how do you kind of that can't be something that's unfamiliar, within your coaching and working with people? Like, how do I become someone that I've never been before?
Well, I mean, you have to understand.
It's the name of the game, really.
Little questions.
The ego, when we're born, we have pretty much an like expanse of mind. It's blank, open mind. I mean, when you're a kid, again, everything is amazing. Everything is, spectacular. You're happy, you're sad. Okay. But then you start building this ego. You start by what happens to you. So what you're doing is taking this mind where we are all connected. I believe it. I know it. Every religious spiritual leader I've ever worked with, and I'm talking, I've done, meditation retreats in the Himalaya mountains, and I've met, I've seen things that just blew me away. Some, what I do in my shows and things, mind reading, which is a stage thing, right? I do it in my acts sometimes when I'm working in Vegas. But I saw a monk tell me, what do you do? And I told him, and he said, yeah, think of a word. And I did. And he goes, lumberjack. And that's what I was thinking of. Okay. And so he was literally doing for real what I had been doing for 20 years on stage, pretending to be real. Right. But he explained to me that there is the universal consciousness, which we're all connected to. And so mind reading, that sort of thing is not impossible at all, because if you're in that, you are not only connected to everyone now, but you're connected to everyone that's been, everyone. You're in this universal consciousness where creativity and power and all of that comes from. So when you're living in your everyday existence, you don't realize, you think that you are, it's like me. And it doesn't help because they're programming us to not like each other. They want man versus woman, black versus white, gay versus straight, whatever it is. It's so much better to divide. They're much easier to control people when you've divided everyone. So, you just have to start looking at who is making the money, doing where is this coming from? Why do you feel this way about a certain group of people, right? Because the ego is, you've built this thing, but it's very fragile. And that's why when you get close to something, it gets upset and you can't talk about it. So again, it's just something comes up in your life. And I tell people, you just relax. You don't allow, because what's happening when you start to get, flustered and you get pulled into it, you are keeping something else in, or you're taking something that's happening now and trying to store it. If you start releasing the small things, like weather and, a line at the bank, whatever it is, you're at Starbucks and there's a big line of people, whatever. Let those things go. That little bit of energy comes back, right? And now when the bigger thing pops up, and it will, because these big things are waiting, right? Because every time they come up, you push them down immediately. So now you've removed some small things. You've got a little more willpower. And the next time that big thing comes up and comes surging up, you relax into it a little bit. You remember, okay, I'm watching a movie. I'm sitting in the seat of self, they call it. That's where, when your consciousness is seated up there, when it is in the seat where, because you're looking at life, not only is it not reality, but remember, it's not like these are glass windows and that you're seeing like a picture. What's happening is everything in the outer world is being changed into electrical, impulses and coming into your mind and recreating that inside your head. You're looking at like a flat screen of what's happening out here. And that's why some people that are schizophrenic and they have mental disorders, when that picture comes back in and reassembles, it could be some crazy thing that's not happening, but there's something there. There's something happening to them, right? That's real. I mean, for them, it's just as real as it is for us looking at, but you're not seeing it like there's a window in your head and you're looking at the world. Everything you see, colors and shapes and everything, has to instantaneously be transmitted into electricity and then has to come into your head. So it makes it easier to think you're watching a movie because you're up there watching a screen pretty much, right? And that analogy, it sounds so dumb, but if you imagine I'm the soul, I'm the consciousness, I am the overseer of this, and I'm sitting up there, you have tremendous power because by relaxing, it's like you're in that seat. Okay, if I have to try to make you see it physically, you're in that seat, right? And you relax. When you relax, it's like this, right? And so what's happening inside, you're leaning back away from whatever is trying, because that's what we do. It's like something comes up and right away we're there and we're stopping it and we're mad. By leaning away, trying to explain leaning inside your mind is difficult, but if you relax, you're automatically leaned away from whatever's happening. It's much easier for it to start. And you might not get it through in one time, but you might get it through in 3 or 4 times, something that has been bothering you or been on your mind since you were a kid, by just relaxing into it and knowing the ego's not you, the voice in your head is not you, what's happening in the outer world isn't you, none of these things, right? The overseer of the consciousness, the soul, that's the real you. That's the inner you that we're all trying to get to. That's where creativity is, that's where love is, that's where all of those things are. Because you're not trying to do anything in the outer world if you're happy in the inner. In other words, you're not out there fighting. You're not starting wars. You're not trying to make other people do what you want to do. If you are happy with yourself, people are inspired. They are changing. That's how we change the world, not by, the other way. So yeah, it's just the fact that anything you can do to step back and see, okay, this is very logical. I've taken a bunch of crap I like, a bunch of crap I don't like. I've stored it in me. It's trying to get out of me so I can live the life I want and get that energy back, but I keep pushing it down. So now when something happens, I'm going to relax. I'm driving and something happens, I'm going to relax. I'm late for work and there's a train. What can you possibly do? You're in a line of cars. There's a car behind you. You can't get out of that. To sit there for 5 minutes and, give yourself a heart attack. And that's what we do. People don't realize health is a huge part of mindset because you are literally working yourself up into such a frenzy. You're causing physical ailments. You're causing angina. You're causing all of these things. Disease. I'm not at ease. I'm making myself uncomfortable. So those little things, they don't sound like anything. People go, oh, that's not going to do anything, but it does. That tiny bit of willpower comes back and then it comes home. I love that when you say, okay, the power comes back home, then you focus it where it matters. And that's how you become a success. And that's how it starts to become easier to deal with. Because just like you said, at the beginning, you're going to be overrun with all these thoughts. But that's good. That shows you what you've got to, that there's a lot to kind of work through here. But over time in meditation, the voice in your head is going to go, okay, he's not going to let me out of this. So for the next, and I tell people start with 5 minutes. By the way, I was going to tell you this earlier, because you said about 20 minutes. I used to do 20 minutes twice a day. Now I do 40 twice a day, only because it's like having your own spiritual chapel that you can go to anywhere. And it really is. Everything changes. Nobody gets it. It's like you have to, some people go, oh, I go to therapy. Okay, what do you do? Well, once every Thursday I go and I talk about all my problems. And okay, how do you feel Thursday night at home? Well, not great, because you're in that. You've brought up all those feelings. You're thinking about it, right? Friday, you're not doing that great, right? Maybe you start getting better Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, then you're back there Thursday again. And it all comes, it all comes back up. That's like trying to fix heart disease by, doing the balloon or doing something, not changing your diet. It'll fix it temporarily, but it's not going to permanently fix the problem. That's what we all do. So it's like if you're going to start, do 3 minutes. But make yourself do it. 3 minutes. And the easiest method, and this is the one I teach, I do transcendental meditation, I do other things, but the easiest thing to learn right away is you count to 20. And it sounds, this makes no sense, but it's really genius, because when you count to 20 and then go back to 1, and 20 is the perfect amount of numbers, because if you end up at 40, you've gone too far, you go back to 1, right? If you end up at 142, you go back to 1. But you do it without judgment, without being mad at yourself, without giving yourself any because it's going to happen. Your mind is not going to sit still, especially at the beginning. So you count 1 in your mind silently. Your eyes are closed. Okay. You breathe a couple of times in and out, and then you just start counting in your mind silently. 1, 2, 3, 4. What am I going to have for lunch? I don't know. 1, 2. As soon as you realize your mind has gone somewhere else, you go back to 1. No judgment. Just immediately. That will be the most powerful thing you ever do, because every time you pull your focus back, you're gaining power. It's not every time you do it, it's not for nothing. That little bit of power is going to come back. That's going to give you unbelievable focus. And that teacher that told me to focus, I can teach her how to focus now, because that's how you focus. It's like, that's how you get a power of focus. Boom. Pull your attention. Boom. I don't care if you have to sit there for 5 minutes and you have to do it 200 times. Constantly, because at the end of that 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever, you're more powerful than you were before. And so when you sit down the next time, it's going to be a fraction of a bit better. There's no thing that's going to make you a different person in a day. There's not a pill. There's not a program. You don't have to go meditate in a cave. You don't have to go to India. You don't have to buy a $20,000 course. That's the thing. It's you that has to do it. But all it takes to start is you sit quietly with yourself. The things you work out in when you're going to therapy, those things start to work out automatically. I've been meditating, sometimes crying, things are leaving me and I don't even know what they are. And that's a gift too, because it's like, I didn't have to go through it again. Something just passed. I feel this rush of energy. I'm crying, right? But it disguised it in a way that I don't know exactly what it is. That's how powerful it can be. So don't fight it. You just kind of, if I'm feel like crying, I cry. If I feel like, but that is how you change. It's because you're open to most people are so comfortable with misery because they're used to it. It's like, my life's not great, but I know what it is, right? So that little bit of misery makes me somehow comfortable. And when you talked about people around you seeing you change, the people around you are the ones usually that are not going to help you, because they see somebody that they love or they care about is leaving them behind, is changing in a way, right? Or doing something they've always wanted to do. And by you doing it, it shows them it's possible and that they've wasted so that upsets people. So the people closest to you will oftentimes be the ones that are not your cheerleaders. They're, you don't know about that. That's really scary. That's what they're going to do to you. So it's like, you have to find the voice within yourself, your own distinct, the real you, and you have to stick with it. You have to not be swayed by what anyone on the outside says, what anything that's happening. I used to be swayed by, politics, and you just can't, because as soon as you let anything out there move your inner compass around, you're in trouble. It's like you are the one in control. You got to start exerting it.
Yeah, you're handing your power away when you give anybody else. That's exactly what you're talking about. And I loved the discussion on meditation, what you just spoke about, giving those tips, even, counting 3 minutes. I could not agree more. I think, I don't want to speak for Dan, but him and I, meditation has been single-handedly the most powerful transformation in our lives and, coaching other people. Because even if you can only do it for a couple minutes, again, it's practice, right? You're not going to be a monk sitting in a cave for 7 hours. Of course not. And for those people, that's great. But like you're saying, go for a couple minutes, because what I have found, the longer you can do it, the more you want to do it. And then your life becomes a meditation. Like, my day is a meditation, because you're able to become the observer of your thoughts and realize, wait a minute, am I on autopilot, or am I actually awake right now? Is this my conscious mind speaking, or am I being run by a pattern? It's just, again, getting familiar with the voices in your head of and who they are identifying. That's the deepness and the depth of who we are. Because I do believe, as we're wrapping up here, like this whole conversation, the power of our mind is so imperative for us to create the life that we want. And so many of us, me included, I've just created the life I didn't want because we're all on autopilot, you know?
Mhm.
So it's like becoming aware and kind of understanding. I truly believe, and I'd love your opinion, I think most people are afraid of the power that we hold to actually create, because that is a whole new level of responsibility. And I'm still working through that. Like, holy crap, if I've created some, not so great circumstances, but that means I have the power to truly create what I actually desire deep down. Like, oh, I gotta sit with that. And how does that make me feel? Like, that's a feeling that I'm still trying to figure out. But how empowering that is. Like, we want to empower people. We have that ability. That's the hidden possibilities, the hidden, the deep secrets within us that we all have.
Yeah, like I said, it's a birthright, and
Birthright.
back
Yes, it's our
thousands
inheritance.
thousands of years ago, you had so much time. What was there to do? Right? You're living in a cave and you're hungry. You go out and kill a tiger or something, or a wild animal, and you come back in, you procreate, whatever it is. It gets dark. You have to go to sleep. You had much more time to contemplate, to think, okay. And that's, I think, how, as a species, we really just came into fruition so fast. I mean, in the last, 60 years, we went from, nothing to flying to being on the moon it's just incredible. Those are all mental mind. I mean, nothing you ever see, have looked at, could have been created without the mind. Somebody had to think of that. Somebody had to get that idea. It had to start as an idea. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, it's going to be, your whole life has to become a game of, I need to be more aware. Like I need to do little tricks, little mind hacks, little things, Post-it note, like I said, or whatever it is that can trigger me to become aware all of a sudden. Because it happens sometimes. You're driving and there's like I was driving the other day and it's like, oh the trees are amazing and gorgeous and green, and they look greener than they've ever looked. And it's because you're in the moment. You don't see any of that when you're on autopilot and it's that tape is running in your mind, right? So you live your entire existence. In every moment, there's something like, I forget how many zillion moments going on. So it's like, we're looking at each other, right? The moment in front of me. But if I look this way, there's another moment going on here. There's one here and up here and down here and everywhere. And I'm only seeing this little sliver of it is technically, like, mathematically so insignificant. I don't know anything. All I know is what I'm seeing directly in front of me. And whatever I know, whatever I've read, whatever I've watched on TV, whatever I've experienced myself. There's zillions of moments happening right now that I have nothing to do with and that I don't know anything about. And so I think one of the biggest tricks that we can do is to people to understand that all of this is happening. It has nothing to do with you. It's been going on for billions of years. There's moments happening everywhere. They're not personal. God doesn't hate you. The universe isn't against you. When good things happen, it's not because you went to church last Sunday or because you didn't eat meat last week or whatever it is. It's because, you're manifesting whether we know it or not. You're creating good or bad, whether you know it or not. And people talk about the law of attraction, which is real, but they've bastardized it so much by making it something that you can sit on the sofa, dream about a Ferrari, and it's in your driveway. And it's missing the action step, which is get yourself whatever you want, see it, feel it. Feel it is the most important thing. Get into the end, get into the feeling of what it's like, and then start moving towards it. Not sit on the sofa and pray for it, or, it's not going to happen. So we are manifesting every day. You're bringing things towards you, people, places, things, and most people don't realize it. That's why you see a negative person. I have an aunt who is the most negative person you will ever see in your life. Literally goes through the car wash. Somehow the window comes down and the entire car gets filled with soap suds. That's the kind of, and like, I've never heard that ever happening to anyone ever. But those are the kind of things that happens to her because everything in her life's negative. Everybody's out to get her. Her husband is negative. It's like a negativity vortex. They sit in the house and they're both like so negative. That's all they do. Health problems. It's just one thing after another because you are literally bringing towards you it's not just what you're thinking about. It's what you're feeling and what you think you are, what you think you deserve, what you think you don't deserve. That's how we're manifesting. So it's not what I'm going to force myself to think of a car. No. It's what's going on behind that thought. What is the programming that it's running? Because that's what's manifesting, not what you're trying to put a Band-Aid over this, gunshot wound. It's like, it's the whatever is underneath. So you got to change the programming to change anything that you want. You have to just get in there and be brave. It's not going to be great at the beginning. There's some scary stuff, but the alternative is to spend the rest of your life inside of a dark little room with very little light, and you're locked in there and you're living your life watching everything else through the window. You're not you're protecting yourself. You're only wanting this, you're only wanting that. You're only watching what you want to watch. You're not seeing it. So just kind of that separation. There's a lot of things happening that don't have to do with you. Almost everything that is happening has nothing to do with you, right? And so just embrace the moment. So as much as you can possibly become present in a day, I don't care what you've got to do, wear a rubber band, flick yourself with it. Anything you do to come back into the present moment is going to be so worthwhile as you move through this journey. Because that's really all it is awareness. It'll get you almost there. The rest of it, I mean, meditation too. I agree with you. My life is completely changed. It would never be where it is without meditation. So those two things, but awareness, I think, is like 70%, because most people are oblivious to what is going on. So as soon as you go, oh my God, this is so illogical, that makes no sense. Most people, I've had people go, oh my God, I realize now I became a whatever for my dad. I don't even want to be, my dad wanted me to be a lawyer. Oh, you argue so well. You do, right? But a lot of people do that. They live for what, other people tell them to do, and they'll be 50 years old. And that's why people have midlife crisis. Like, I've made it to the halfway point of my life and nothing is like I thought it was going to be. And they have a crisis. They go out and have to get a sports car. They cheat they do something because they are so unhappy with where they are. They realize, I've been living someone else's version of what my life should be. So no matter what people told you in the past, and no matter where you're watching this from, what age you are, what color you are, how much money you have, every one of us has this ability. We just have to tap into it. And again, it doesn't have anything to do with money or race or anything else. It's your God-given birthright, and they don't want you to know. The people that know don't want you to know most of the time, because it keeps you controllable. It keeps you malleable. So just knowing there is more and wanting more, you'll start to get there.
Yeah. It seems like, I feel like the more I listen to you, and I love the way you
describe your enthusiasm is so good.
This is my topic.
Everything. Yeah. This has been amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like the more I listen to you, the more it comes down to, it's almost like we're learning to manage our energy and our attention and our awareness. Because if we're wasting all our energy either focusing on the past or focusing on what we don't want or trying to suppress emotions, that's all energy. It's like we only have so much bandwidth of focus and attention. And if we're putting it into the things that we don't want, then we have no energy to put into the life that we want to create.
Exactly. It's like, if you're thinking about something that happened in the past and that's something you're held inside, again, you've held it in there with willpower. You've held it in there with life force energy, which means when you're 20, 30, 40 years old, obviously there's more and more and more and more in there, and more and more and more of your willpower is stretched across a vast, infinite amount of things. We do it with everything. I like this. I don't like that. I want this. I don't want that. What that does is it creates an area where almost everything's negative, because it's got to be exactly what I want. It can't be what I don't want. Right. And if it's what I want, but not quite, it's still not right. So it's always negative. So you're always coming from this space where, like you said, I love that you wake up in the morning, you're thinking the same thoughts as yesterday. You're living in the past. You're repeating this. And so you're bringing yesterday into today. So one last tip I tell people, you go to sleep at night, the last thing you do at night, you have to be thinking about what it is that you want. You have to feel it. You have to go to sleep kind of thinking about it. Most people do the complete opposite, which is you worry about all the stuff that happened today, all the stuff you have to do tomorrow. Then you go to sleep, and now for the next 6 hours, you are going to marinate on that. That's what's going on in your subconscious in the background is all the stuff. So, and it also means when you wake up the next morning, it's not a new day, because you're just continuing. It's now day whatever, 64 of this day, because it's just continuing. So you go to sleep, imagining it, feeling happy about it, seeing yourself there. Get an anchor image in your mind. In other words, if you want a house, and not be specific. That's what I hate. People will go, I want this house. And they just completely block their blessing, because it's like, I have to have this woman. Like, I have to have Mary Jenkins from wherever, right? No, how about a loving person that's, beautiful, whatever, and I want this in the house with this many rooms or whatever, and this, but not I want 54, 100 Elm Street. You have to take away the specificity, but you have to see the end result and then kind of go to sleep feeling that. And if it takes going on YouTube, looking up videos of, you want to go to Paris, so you go look up, Paris, you start looking at airlines, how much does it cost to go to Paris? You start getting in the zone of going to Paris. Not just then it becomes not just a pipe dream that you're having this daydream. It's starting to become something that now you know what it costs to go to Paris. You know some of the best hotels. You've looked at some maps of the city, and you know where the read the reviews of the cafes and things. Now you're thinking of that, right? Instead of, I'm never going to get, Paris is somewhere I really want to go, but I'm never going to get there. You have to start making the action step. And that, it's just a big move. You can read all you want about any of this, but without doing something, you can read everything I've ever written, watch every video I've ever made, and it's not going to get you anywhere unless you do something. And that's what most people, they're like information collectors. People will have every book. I've read every book, Eckhart Tolle and Michael Singer and Joe Dispenza. Okay, but how much of those things did you actually do in your life? None. It's like, I have everything. I understand it kind of, I understand it mentally, but I don't understand it spiritually because I'm not doing it. So now it's just kind of an abstract thing. It's not something that's going to work for me. It's just an abstract thing I'm reading about. So just know you're immensely powerful. You're more powerful than you can even dream. And that's why most people are afraid of it. They're afraid of that power because it does take responsibility. It takes owning where you've been, what you've done, forgiving the people that wronged you, especially if they're no longer alive. I mean, you got to start letting these things go and let that power come home, because every bit of that you get back, it's going to make this transition into this new life just an incredible thing.
So beautiful. Epic words. I mean, mic drop. Just, this has been unbelievable. I feel like we could talk for hours. Your enthusiasm, like I know that we're on certainly, virtual here, but like just the energy emanating off of you, I feel it. It is deeply embedded, and we're just so grateful. I mean, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I feel like you did a beautiful job wrapping up, kind of summarizing here, but we always like to leave the space open if there's anything else you'd like to provide to the audience. And please let us know where we can link for people to find you in the show notes, website, Instagram, Facebook groups, books. I mean, you are just, you seem like you've got the kitchen sink going on, Brent, and I'm grateful for that, because we need people like you. We all need, like I said, we're all here on this evolutionary elevation, whatever you want to call it, ascension journey together. And the more people who we have like this that are resonating at frequencies that can help others raise the consciousness of not only individuals, but the planet, I think we're making big moves, and you are at the forefront.
Well, I appreciate it. My first 20 years of my career, it was all about, look at me. In other words, I'm on stage, I get the standing ovation. It's all about me. I don't, I mean, back then, that's what an entertainer, most of the time, that's what we're doing. I mean, you've got something inside you that makes you get up in front of people and you do something and you want applause for it. It's when I started working with people off to the side of what I was doing. But even now, I work with Norwegian Cruise Lines a lot. I do things, but I told them I'll do the show I did in Vegas, but it's now going to be 50. I mix the message. In other words, all the mind power stuff is right in there. And there's still some amazing things, right? But I told them, and then I said, I want to do a seminar on on the sea days and for the passengers. So just seeing that, I mean, that's what it takes. It just takes you guys, people watching you. It takes a few people watching me. It's one person who changes. They could inspire 5, 6, 7 people. So, I never look at the big picture. It's like, what we're doing, I think, is the way to do it, because it's like somebody connects to us, we help them, they help themselves, they help other people, and it becomes a snowball effect. So the best way to get a hold of me, we're doing a new website right now, but brentwebb.com is my website now, and it's about to be brand new. But the two things that I'm kind of promoting is we created a meditation course, and it's free, but it's for people who want to start and like they don't have any idea what to do. So we came up with a meditation journal, some video meditations, guided meditations, and it takes you, if you've never done anything, you're able to use this information and start, because it's overwhelming, especially with the amount of of different practices you'll see. You look up meditation on YouTube, you're going to see 50 million things. Leave your eyes open, close your eyes, count, chant, do this, do that. It's like you need one structure that you know has worked for other people, right? And I'm thousands of people at this point. And you want to be able to do something that's easy, because if it becomes daunting, you're not going to do it. So anyway, this course is meditationminicourse.com. So it's meditationminicourse.com. You go there, put in your email, you download the course. It's free. You can start using it. And the other way, you talked about my Facebook group. We have 10,000 people, very selective. In other words, we don't allow spammers, people that are just trying to sell you something. I'm not in there. Like you see a lot of these groups where it's like, I'm in there. Hey, buy my this, buy my that.
Sure.
I'm in there. But we're just trying to get this information out and teach people the very simple tools to do it. So the way to get there is brentsgroup.com, no apostrophe, just BRENTS group.com. And same thing, you'll get an invite to join the group. We vet each person's profile just to make sure it's a real person. It's somebody who wants the knowledge and not just somebody who's in there to try to get a hold of, somebody who's trying to sell something to the other people or spam or whatever. But every day there's 10,000 people almost. And every day it's not just me, but I'm seeing people that have been helped now helping other people. So it's starting to become a community where it's really starting to, I can be out on the road doing my thing and check in daily, but not, I don't have to live in there. And it's still continuing because people that understand it and get it and have changed because of it are now teaching other people how to do it. So brentsgroup.com. And I love it. You guys should join too, because you're going to find, we can promote this in there, but you're going to find there are just so many people that need this, that want this, that are dying every day. Their life is just crushing them. They don't realize there is a lifeline that you don't have to buy, that you don't have to do some weird thing. You just don't, it's just not in the general knowledge of people. They just don't get it. So yeah, that's what we're doing in there. So brentsgroup.com.
Awesome. Brent, again, thank you so much. We'll link all of this in the show notes. We can't thank you enough for coming and diving very deep with us today.
I appreciate it. You guys were great. And if you're watching, you can do this. I promise.